To my surprise, another PS5 event has been announced and it's happening just a few days from now on Wednesday in American time. Sony is finally ready to make their move on the price confirmation and all of the other details we've been waiting for months after everything happened with Microsoft last week. Here's what the PlayStation blog says we should expect. Before PlayStation 5 launches this holiday, we wanted to give you one more look at some of the great games coming to PS5 at launch and beyond. Our next digital showcase will weigh in at around 40 minutes and feature updates on the latest titles from Worldwide Studios and our world-class development partners. The last one was about an hour long and it was packed. I thought that showcase was absolutely terrific in June, so 40 minutes this time, probably not going to be quite as packed. They put that first initial slate out there again, and I don't expect any crazy, mind-blowing announcements here necessarily, but I'm really looking forward to the event, and I want to do my rapid-fire predictions, so let's do it. First things first, release date. Xbox Series X and Series S are both launching on Tuesday, November 10th, which is interesting because last gen, both consoles launched on Fridays in November, a week apart from one another. So this Tuesday move was quite surprising. I would have thought they would definitely do a Friday. So the fact they've chosen a Tuesday makes me think maybe Sony would also choose a Tuesday. I really don't know. The release date's the biggest toss-up of all of this. We know it's going to be in November. We know it's going to be really close to Xbox, probably within the 7-day mark from it, either before or afterwards. It's hard to say. Last generation, PS4 released 1 week earlier, so you could say that Sony would want to do the same thing, but Xbox, that November 10th date is pretty early in the month, so that could push Sony afterwards. It's really hard to say. Look, I'm going to just throw out a prediction because, you know, I want to throw out something concrete. I'm going to say they're going to put out PS5 on Friday, November 20th. I think they'll stick with the Friday instead of the Tuesday. I think they'll want to avoid the Friday after Xbox just because it's Friday the 13th, and, you know, that shit often does affect company strategies. There's also a chance they will, so maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I'm going to stick with Friday the 20th, but they could also do Friday the 6th. The only thing that's stopping me from picking that is I think that's still a little early in the month, but hey, yeah, this is all a toss-up like I said. Price is one of the most interesting things in my opinion. So, Xbox Series X is $499 US. I think it's a really easy bet to say that PlayStation 5 is going to match that. $400 seems too low these days. That was PS4's launch price, but with all the enhancements we've seen with PS5, the SSD, this tech doesn't seem to be able to be priced at $400. It just seems not feasible at all. And obviously, anything above $500 I think just has bad stigma in the public eye in the eyes of the gamer, especially after PS3's $600 launch back in 2006 was an absolute disaster, and I think Sony would be stupid to repeat that, so $500 is a very, very safe bet. But the more interesting thing I think to talk about with price is the digital edition. The PS5 that has no disc drive, you have to purchase all your games digitally. I think the common thread with this one is this going to be priced $50 less or $100 less than the base unit? And I am a firm believer that it is going to be $100 less. It is going to be $399 US. That means Xbox Series S being $299, PS5 digital being $399, and then the two high-end units, PS5, Xbox Series X, $499. I think that makes absolutely perfect sense. The PS5 digital edition is for all intents and purposes the same machine as the regular PS5, just without the disc drive component, so it's definitely never going to be as low as the Series S, which is completely custom hardware. And while I certainly don't think, I'm no expert on this kind of shit, but I don't think a disc drive is worth $100. I don't think removing the disc drive from the console suddenly actually makes it genuinely worth $100 less. I think if you were going off that, it probably would be priced at $450. However, there's other major factors you've got to think about here. For one, the reason that the PS5 digital edition exists in the first place is to create a cheaper alternative for people that want to be able to buy in on next gen without going all in on the high-end consoles. It's the exact same reason the Xbox Series S exists, and Sony has no doubt created this digital edition to counter the Series S somewhat. So if the purpose of the digital console is to ensure that it will have a cheaper price point that is going to be more accessible, $50 is not a big enough difference for the entire purpose of its existence to be justified. I can see a ton of people, if it's only $50 cheaper, just choosing the disc version. It's like, well, I'd just rather the convenience of being able to do discs if I only have to pay $50 more, but $100 in terms of consumer perception, and just, of course, literally, it's $100, the difference there is substantial enough to actually make an impact, I think, in the way Sony needs it to. But also, the entire reason Sony wants you to start purchasing more and more games digitally, and to limit the amount of people that are able to buy games physically, is because naturally, when you buy a game on their PlayStation Store digitally, they get a much larger cut of every single game sold. Therefore, even though they might be selling the PS5 digital editions at more of a loss initially upon the console's purchase compared to the regular PS5 model, over time, as the user continues to purchase games on the digital edition because they physically cannot purchase physical releases, the profit margins for Sony are going to be exponentially increased. I think that's the long-term goal for Sony there. They want the digital sales, they want the larger profits from that, and to do that, they're going to need to cut down the price much more than $50. So that's my bet. $3.99 for digital and $4.99 for the regular edition. Okay, games. So we're probably going to see a ton more gameplay and demos and other things for games that have already been announced, which is great. I'm excited for those things. We essentially already know that Miles Morales Spider-Man will be a launch game. It's got that holiday 2020 window, but that's going to be confirmed here. And hopefully with it a bit of a gameplay demo as well, because we've only got that sort of really brief teaser trailer from it. But there have been rumours that PS5 is going to have one other launch game that we're not aware of yet, and I think that's totally true. Whether or not the rumours are true, I don't know, but that makes perfect sense. One exclusive launch game is not strong enough in my opinion. PlayStation have always had more than one off the top of my head. PS3, PS4 definitely did. So what would that second launch exclusive be? There's a chance it's something that's unannounced. I think that's pretty unlikely. So going off from the games we know exist, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, we've already seen a ton of gameplay from it. It's by far the PS5 game we've seen the most of. So that's a bit of supporting evidence for that one. Demon's Souls Remake was recently rated in South Korea, I believe. I don't remember which country it was, but it was definitely rated somewhere recently. So that would indicate it's further along in development than we would think. So those two would seem the most likely candidates. I don't think it's going to be Ratchet & Clank just because at Gamescom opening night live, the developers continued to insist that it's a launch window game, and if you're using that wording in your publicity for a video game that it's launch window, that's not launch day, and I think that we're probably going to end up seeing Ratchet & Clank early 2021 instead. It's just very specific wording to use otherwise. Demon's Souls is definitely possible, but even though Spider-Man is a massive IP, I think that is going to be enough for core gamers. You know, people are definitely going to be excited to play that. So Demon's Souls definitely appealing to hardcore gamers. I don't know if people really need that, if that makes sense. I feel like they would want to offer something a little bit more diverse, maybe to appeal to a younger audience like they did with Knack at PS4's launch. Not that I want anything like Knack again. So in terms of PS5 games that we know about that could fit, we know Sackboy: A Big Adventure is a game that Sumo Digital has been working on. We got a bit of gameplay for that. I think that's possibly a launch game. I think having that with Miles Morales is a good kind of 1-2 hit, appealing to two different audiences. And there's also a chance all three of them appear at launch as well. So I don't know, this is tough. I'm going to stick with two PlayStation 5 exclusives at launch. It's going to be Spider-Man Miles Morales, and yeah, I'll say Sackboy: A Big Adventure, just for that diversity offering kind of thing. But damn, yeah, Demon's Souls is likely as well. I don't know. I'll go with those two. I'll stick with it. So outside of the other demos for other games we know about, I think we will get some new game announcements here too. I don't think there'll be many at all. I think it would be unrealistic to expect Uncharted 5 teaser, new Naughty Dog game. Like, I think those kind of things are definitely out of reach. So I wouldn't get too hyped for those. But, you know, we've been talking about factions, Last of Us Part 2, multiplayer being a thing for ages now. We know it exists. We've seen leaked alpha, or whatever you'd call it, very early gameplay footage of it out there in the wild. Naughty Dog themselves admitted they've been working on it, and the possibility always exists that the project's been scrapped and we're never going to see it. But, I don't know, I lean towards the fact I think it will come out, and if they're going to do it, it's obviously going to be a PS5 game at this point, and if they're going to do that, I think it has to be here. I don't know. I think that's one of the more likely new game announcements we'll get, which could also possibly bolster the launch lineup a fair bit as well. Chuck in Factions multiplayer, maybe sell it for a cheaper price, or even, I don't know, it could be free to play even. A multiplayer offering like that at launch I think would be really solid as well. So I think if that game still exists, if Naughty Dog is still planning to release it, I think it has to be here at this point. And whether or not that is a thing, I think there is a chance for one big game teaser. Something that is akin to, you know, the Uncharted 4 teasers we got in 2013, 2014. Just very brief things that essentially give us a tiny glimpse into what the story would be. Don't show us any gameplay or anything like that, but basically just confirming that this big game is coming, get excited for it in a few years. And I think it's great Sony's kind of moved away from doing a ton of that. We haven't seen it in a few years, but I think there's a chance they do it for one thing, and if they do it for one thing, people have talked about it being the Uncharted reboot. I don't think it's going to be that. That feels too soon. That feels like a game that would come out mid PS5 generation sort of time, maybe 2024 or maybe 2023, I don't know, somewhere around there. So with that in mind, I don't know, like everyone knows a God of War sequel is happening. It's 100% in development. I would not be surprised at all if we get a quick 30-second thing, maybe to end the stream, where it's, you know, something super basic. Kratos says a few lines of dialogue, we get a glimpse at something cool, and then we get God of War logo and a subtitle. I think that is as extreme or as hype as this stream is going to get, as this event is going to get. I think that is definitely quite a high hope, but I think it is in the realms of possibility, unlike some other things. But other than that, we're still missing out on a ton of key information about PlayStation 5 as a console that I do hope to see here, including what the UI is going to look like. I want to see the freaking home menu, dude. I want to look at the PlayStation Store. And there's still some fundamental features about PS5 that we don't even know a ton about. We've heard developers and engineers and shit talk about the quick start feature forever now. How many times in interviews that I've read developers going on about, well, on PlayStation 5, from the home screen, you can go straight into multiplayer games without even going through other menus. And every time they talk about it, it's really cool. We still haven't seen any sign of this in action whatsoever. So I think this event's going to be packed. I think we're going to get little teasers of those sorts of things kind of buried within it. Little 1 or 2 minute sections about that maybe. And then I think after the show, we're going to maybe get some more extensive YouTube videos and trailers that Sony will put out that'll fully show off the UI and go into in-depth information about all the stuff that we really have been waiting to see, I think. Now's the part where I have to tell you to leave your predictions in the comment section below. How wrong am I? How right am I? What announcement would you be excited to see? Let me know, please. I'll see you all next time. This has been SirCazz. Farewell.